I'm Terry.
And we're from Stitch House at Sew Dallas. It is week 2 of the Good Neighbor Block Party Sew Along, and we are very excited to show you block 2, which is Frisco.
Frisco, which is my new hometown.
Wait, new? You haven't been there for very long?
No, I'm actually a transfer probably within the last 3 years. I've moved to Texas from Central Illinois.
Oh wow, okay, so we were neighbors before too.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to show you the second block in our sew along. We are so excited that you all are joining along with us, but it's not too late. Remember, you can always join in at any time. We've got 9 weeks of blocks to show you. So we've got the blocks that we've cut out from the QUILT, and these are the components for the Frisco block with more Ruby Star Society speckled fabric.
On the M7 Continental from Janome, we're going to adjust our 1/4 inch. Right now I have the superior feed system with the AccuFeed Flex Foot. One of the reasons why it's so flexible is this little foot will actually come off, and so I'm going to tilt it frontwards and move it off. Next, I'm going to use the 1/4 inch attachment, and it actually has letters on the front, OD. What I'm going to do is, if you look right on the side, you'll see little arms right here that correlate to the little pegs on the inside. I'm going to put this foot the exact same way that I did the other, taking it off. The little feet will go in, and then I just push it straight back. So now my 1/4 inch attachment is on. Okay, what I'm doing first off is I'm going to put in a brand new needle. And today what I'm using in the machine is a size 14 red needle from Janome. It's going to make a slightly larger hole. I would usually use these for heavier fabrics. These are a Janome organ needle, size 14. And then we also have a size of 14, which are purple. These were designed specifically for Janome for free motion quilting, and if you get skip stitches. And I particularly like to use them when I'm using metallic thread. Inside the eye of that needle, instead of having a traditional edge, it's actually rounded, so your metallics will actually swing back and forth in the eye of the needle and not shred as easily or break. And then the other needle that we use normally in Janome is this blue needle. This is the size 11, and I believe Emily has talked to you about piecing needles from Schmetz, and so we have the 5 quilting needles from Schmetz, which are 11, 7511. That is also what these blue ones are, but this is a universal needle, so I can actually use these in my embroidery machine and then switch over to piecing and garment sewing and still use the same needle. And Janome normally has a blue tip, size 11, universal, a purple one, which I use for free motion quilting, metallics, skip stitches, and then the red one, which I use for heavier fabrics. And so one of the other things I wanted to say is that these are organ type needles. The Janome machines will also use Schmetz needles just as easily. The nice thing about using organ needles is our needle threader is actually geared towards an organ needle. So you will actually thread easily and precisely every time. I'm going to say every time because I haven't had it not do it yet. So if you ever have a problem with not threading, you can always use your needle up down and it will return it back into the proper position.
We've got the Frisco block laid out really nicely, so this is what your color order is going to be for this week. You can always refer to your template, and we've got B, A, and C. So whenever I am referring to B, what I actually mean are these really beautiful blue triangles here. A are going to be all of your squares, so you'll notice that you have 2 different color squares, your peach and your light pink. So this one's a little bit lighter and you're darker, so you're going to get a really subtle shift. But those are going to be your A blocks. And then we've got the C block. So that's going to be your orange colored triangle.
And like I said before, I always like to at least get the bias edge with the flatter, just to create a tighter kind of woven so it doesn't stretch while we're piecing. It's a different method. Some people will just piece, and some people will do nothing. I like to flatten them with the flatter. Is that a play on words?
I mean, I think they knew what they were doing.
Okay.
Perfect.
Ooh,
Okay,
that
so
does smell good.
we're ready to stitch. I don't know, Celebration I think is still my favorite, but it's pretty cool. We've got some new scents in this shop.
Well, it's nice that you can buy these smaller bottles, and so if I don't like it, I can always give that away, but they're small. I can take to the quilt shows and do pressing and stuff there instead of not having anything to press with. Emily has moved my pieces over, and she was making a comment on how big the support tray was for the M7. 13 3/4 inches from needle to the throat, and then you got another 6 inches on the side. There's plenty of room. What I'm going to do first here is I'm going to piece my 2 triangles. I'm going to...
Terry, I think those are squares.
Oh, they are. Look at that. I was not the one that would go to the airplane and try to put my luggage up over the seat and take 10 minutes trying to wedge it in. That was not me. Okay, so I'm going to layer my 2 squares right sides together, and I'm going to place it underneath. And right underneath my particular foot, there's a little black guide right here, and that's going to be my edge right here on this line here. So I actually have plenty of room that's going to help me piece this. This little foot here is going to feed the top, and that's going to help me if there's any bias in my particular fabric. So I'm going to push start here, and I'm going to use this little stiletto here just to make sure that I'm staying right in line. I can actually adjust the speed of my foot, and then when I get to the edge I can hold my needle in. Right when I get to the end of that I can stop. Now I can grab my next 2 pieces right sides together. I'm relying on Emily to keep me honest here as far as which pieces are supposed to go to which piece, because she's like that, and that's why we work so well together, because we both are the opposite sides of the same coin. There we go. Now we're going to split these 2 together with our little bucket here. I didn't grab that, but now I grabbed it, and here we go. And now we're off to Emily for pressing. And this week we're going to press these to the dark side. So Emily's got these nice and pressed, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually lay these face right sides together. Now what's happening now is what we call locking seams. If you look closely, this seam is towards me and underneath is towards Emily, and as we push this back and forth, they will actually level out and stop each other from moving each direction. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this right to that line, and then this at the machine I will level these 2 together, and then I will show you exactly why I'm doing it this way. But technically, whenever you're using a regular piecing foot, the top fabric pushes with the foot, and underneath the feed dogs are pulling it. And so if I would just put it under there right now, this top part is going to shift this way because of the way the feed dogs, and then when you open it up you get that 2 or 3 thread difference, and then that's the thing that you notice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to get this so it's completely locked and pieced. So we're back at the machine, and I've lined up my material exactly at the corners here. And traditionally, if I were to sew on this side, my fabric would slowly push my top fabric and create the space. And luckily with these particular pieces, if I line up my corner here, this is going to push this top into this lower seam here and lock it together, and it's going to be perfectly pieced, even with a traditional foot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing this, and you'll see I'm at a quarter inch here, and I'm using the stiletto to keep my pieces completely under and folded the right way. And then we'll get right down to the end here. And we will open. And we got a perfect point. Yay! Some of the elements that we're going to be using are the same that we did in our PLANO block when we refer to the flying geese block. And what I'm going to do is just start us off here. I'm going to line up all my pieces right there, and I'm going to simply chain piece this part onto the larger triangle, press it open, and then go back and sew this part of the goose onto this triangle, and then we'll have our flying geese made.
I'm going to get those ready for Terry. So which one did you start with, Terry? If I'm going to do this one,
Yes.
I'm going to flip this one over for him and line up those points really nicely. And this one, just like that. And this one. Okay, and I'm going to pass those over to Terry on his really huge space on his machine.
My tray's bigger than yours.
Yeah, I know it is. I'm really excited to have the flying geese components in with the Frisco block and the PLANO block because for me the flying geese is really important, and it's kind of one of my favorite elements of quilting. When I was in grad school, I actually have a Master of Fine Arts in sculpture, and some of my thesis work really dealt with migration patterns and tradition and kind of coming back in time to the same place over and over through celebrations and holidays. And I really like the flying geese as an idea that really holds true to that, right? Like geese go from place to place and they keep coming back to the same place every year. I did my grad program in upstate New York. I'm from near St. Louis, and now I'm here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So kind of all of those migrations are really important to me, and I think they really hold true in quilting as well.
I'm going to use this little handy dandy fabric cutter thing. There you go.
Thanks, Terry.
Thank you. As a typical man, I heard Emily speaking, but I did not hear what I remember her saying grad school, and I got so into piecing.
Wow, Terry, it's okay.
That I am so sorry.
You know what? We'll just save that conversation for when all the customers come back in the store. They can ask me about it,
and I can be like, I have no idea what she was talking about. And I apologize, but then again, it's about as much with names too.
So we'll chain piece this next section as well.
Thank you. Okay, next step, now that we've got our flying geese done, is we're going to take this and we're going to lay it right sides together, and we're going to sew a 1/4 inch right here. Once we're done with that one, we'll do the next piece, and then once it's pressed open, we're going to take this one and do it right sides together. Now I can do all the sewing on each side first and then press it open. That can be up to you which one you'd like to do. And so we're going to do that next. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take our center part of our block and we're going to add this. And I do this to all my piecing. This little point here is important. We have to make sure that comes out in our piecing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first lay this over on top of my 4 patch, like so. And on the back, remember Emily had ironed these seams open, so I can see this point perfectly. I'm going to put my needle through there, and then look on the other side. You can see how I have a point. Now I'm going to take my needle, or my pin, sorry, and I'm going to push it down at a 1/4 inch away from the thing. And that pin is actually going into my seam. I'm going to push it down like this. Now, traditionally, even when I was first piecing, I would actually take my pin and I would go like this and pin it. But what happens is you always shift the bottom seam one way or the other, and then when you sew it, you flatten your point. So I'm not going to actually do that. I'm going to leave this straight up and down just like so. And then I'm going to take my other 2 pins, and if you've ever been in a class of mine, you know you only get 3 pins. That's all you need for perfect piecing. I'm going to take this and I'm going to put a pin right in the front of my section, and I'm still straight up and down there. And then I'm going to take another one and put it in the back side of my seam, and I'm still lining up my fabrics. I'm going to push that through and do this. This is still straight up and down. In theory, if I sew right through that point, I'm going to get a perfect point when I open my fabric. So I'm going to pull this one out and I'm going to piece my block.
Terry, what'd you use before these wool pressing mats?
I actually would use the mattress of my bed and I'd stick it straight in.
No!
Yeah.
Oh
so,
boy.
There are 2 things that are nice about these wool mats, and the first one is not only the thickness of it for what I just did, where I can actually use it as a pin board. The other part is that when this gets warm, the heat actually transfers from the wool back up into my piecing, so you can almost iron both sides at the same time, especially once the wool mat gets hot. Let's see how it looks.
Okay, Terry, thank you. So last week we had the PLANO block, and this week we have Terry's Frisco block. We'll just have a little friendly competition and see whose points are better. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Terry's got a good tip for you to get those really nice points on your flying geese blocks.
How are you ironing that?
Well, so I'm still going with the direction that the fabric wanted to go. So even though I'm not pressing to the dark side, this is going to ensure that we can lock and nestle our seams together when we have all 3 of the rows.
Nice.
Just like that. And there's that nice point again. I'll just put a little heat on there.
Okay, so we've got a couple flying geese onto our 4 patch, and now I'm going to attach this to each end. The nice thing about this is that Emily has pressed our seam allowances to inside, and the ones on this are pressed to the outside. So when we fold this over, they're going to lock, and the only thing I have to worry about is that point. And so I'm going to go ahead and do these last 2 seams, and then you will be able to see the block finished. This is our Frisco block completed. And this is our little teamwork exercise. Remember, last week we pressed everything open. This week we pressed these seams open and we locked the rest. And we were able to get some nice points in our finished block. And these intersections here, remember, that and traditionally, when you had this full triangle, you would have little pieces of fabric still sticking out of here. Look how flat these seams lay, and that is from using the QUILT Go to cut our blocks. And we are going to do a video on the QUILT, and we will link it to the blocks that we're doing, just so you can have an idea of what that whole process is.
Block, the second one in our 9-week sew along. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
And right to the right, you'll also see a little bell. Every time, if you click that bell, anytime we add a new video, you'll be alerted.
So like immediately. They'll get like right away.
Just like that.
All right, and then all of our other socials are also listed below. So Instagram, Facebook, you can stay connected with us. And we have gotten some already people been posting Sew Along with Stitch House, and we've been seeing some Plano blocks from last week.
Can't wait to see yours.